actually say we can do 17 things at the same time. Now we're learning to do 100 things at the same time. And at that point, at some point, we need clarity. We need to be able to focus. We need to know what is expected. The new things going on, the workplace is changing. The way we understand work is changing. And there's a whole lot of change that is going on. So this session today, we believe that you will be able to go with things and tips that's going to help you. For that. So I'm going to, and we have a lineup of wonderful, wonderful people, our wonderful panelists who have loads of experience. But I'm going to start up with our moderator, who is Adenike Israel Bolarinwa. Adenike is the founder and director of EPR Preparation Room. Adenike has deep passion for helping women succeed professionally and personally to their, so that they can take territories in every sector and make tangible impact in their generation. Please welcome with me Adenike Israel Bolarinwa. You're welcome. And then I'm going to start up with our panelists. So we have Nandia Tamalong. Nandia is a licensed social worker in the state of Maryland and District of Columbia. She has over 5 years of counseling experience in diverse settings, including community-based services, psychiatric rehabilitation, school-based and outpatient program. She provides psychotherapies to children, adults, and families from different backgrounds and serve diverse populations such as homeless population, domestic violence, sexual abuse, grief, trauma, behavioral and mental health disorder. Nandia is of the opinion that when there is hope, people learn to channel irritational thoughts, belief, and attitude that will free them to experience change. Please welcome Nandia Tamlong. You're welcome, Nandia. And then we have Ibukun Ogundikbe. Ibukun is an agile, creative, and dynamic HR professional with decades of experience spanning across IT, oil and gas, maritime and logistic industry within Sub-Saharan Africa. She currently serves as the country HR manager for Maersk Ghana and Togo. It's a global shipping and logistic company. She is renowned for engaging talent and authentically conversation, brokering mature leadership as a trusted advisor, fostering a collaborative workplace and tactful, balanced business and people performance. She's passionate about causes that supports women, children. As an active member of Zotec International, she loves to spend time with her family and enjoy home DIYs, cooking and traveling. Please welcome with me, Ibukun Ogundikbe. And we have our last but not the least panelist, Edith Umole. Edith is the manager, career development and talents mobility at the World Bank. In this role, she and her team have led the transformation and approach of career development, succession management, and mobility. Prior to working with World Bank Group, she worked at Maersk in the UK, amongst major global multinational companies in Europe, such as Shell Trading, EMEX. She is passionate about mentoring and empowering women to be their best. She's also one of our leaders in the EPR Women's Network team. Please welcome with me, Edith Mole. You're welcome everybody. And like I have said, this is going to be a very interactive section. We have the chat box. Please feel free to send in your questions and we will try to address them as time goes on. So I hand over to our moderator, Adenike Israel Bolarinwa.
Thank you very much, Moji. You did a phenomenal job. Thank you. We're glad to have you on the team as well, and I think that was super. Thank you so much, everyone. We're really excited to have you here in the May edition of the EPR Women's Network. This is a network where we believe very strongly that we come together as a team of ladies with different passions and life's purposes, and well on life's journey, and where we do better when we do life together. And one of the things that's very, very important to us here is the fact that we believe that we also have an assignment. We believe that every woman here is a woman that understands that there's a purpose and there's more to her. And this network wants to encourage you, want to motivate you. We know that there'll be challenges in life. We know there'll be difficulty, but we want you to be empowered. Know that other women rooting with you, believing along with you, and that is EPR Women's Network. So today is packed, so we want to move very quickly. And one of the things that we're looking to do is to have each of our panelists give us a 5-minute overview to this topic for today, the race. It used to be called the rat race, but we're saying this game has changed. Things have been leveled, and it's time for us to reposition, take our career, take our businesses, take whatever it is we're doing, take a hold of it at the reins and reposition ourselves for success. So I look forward to starting off with Ibukun, hearing her top tips that employers are looking for during this time that she can share with us. Ibukun, I'll just hand over to you.
Yes, thank you. Please confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right, perfect. So thanks for having me here, and I'm really appreciative of this opportunity. So
Sorry,
yes, indeed, you are right.
We couldn't see you for a minute, but we can see you now.
Okay, so
Yes.
I was talking about the topic. I believe that caught my interest, first of all, about the race in itself. And I think that's one of the key things in today's world, the world as we know it with COVID-19 and every other thing that is going on right now. My key question to everyone at this meeting, including myself, is who do we think is our competitor? Because when we look at the anecdote
I'm
of
sorry
a race.
to interrupt you. I think the your face is being blocked, so we can't actually see you.
Oh my, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think no problem.
Okay.
I think because there was the move. Yeah, perfect. We can see you now.
Technology.
I know.
One of our greatest disruptors. All right.
I know, right?
Thank you. So speaking about the race, not to spend too much time in a race, in a relay, in a marathon, or whatever it is, you would have athletes to the left and to the right, and then the person running, the athlete in it, himself or herself, would consider those people around him as his competitor. And when we look at that analogy and bringing it into today's world, my charge and challenge to all of us is to reflect on that question: who do we think is our competitor? For me, my simple answer is that there is no competitor out there as great as yourself. You are your competitor, you are your own standard, and whatever it is we do today would definitely impact COVID-19 aftermath. So it's time to re-engineer our mindset, be open and flexible to change. I mean, you said it also at the beginning, and I do really echo it strongly, that everything we thought we knew has changed drastically. So all we are doing right now is just trying to figure out as human beings, what does this mean to me? But then we can't sit in the comfort zone. So upscaling ourselves is very, very key. And we'll get into all this by the time we go into the questions and comments and every other thing. But it is key that we identify values and then we match the need to the value, not the other way around. Previously, traditionally, we would work on the need first, upskill our CV, take a certification because we believe it will answer AC in the marketplace. It is now reversed. So we would need to identify that value first of all in the gig economy that is coming, and then match the need to the values. So not to spend too much time, I believe these are my own opening remark on the topic and the trajectory of today's meeting.
Oh, I'm excited. I love this. Identify new competitors. There's no competitor like yourself. Be flexible. This is a period of a lot of change. Upscale yourself, start getting things that you need and match your values to needs. First of all, I think you delivered that beautifully, and I can't wait for us to go into the discussion session. So, you've given us what employers are looking for. That's a very good one. I know that from your HR background, you work with some of the top companies in the world. So I think this is a very, very good point. And the dimension, we need to think about it. But I like the dimension I think Edith will bring to this, seeing where she comes from and the lens that she would be wearing. So let me now hop over to Edith and to find out what her top tips are.
So I like the way Ibukun talked about the rat race and using the analogy of, a relay. And when you're running a race and you have competitors and your competitors being yourself. The interesting thing is when we started this year, we all had goals and visions and a lot of plans for the year. And 1 month down the road to the year, everything changed. One of the things I've been hearing recently is where some people still expect that at the end of, when we all come out of the lockdown or shelter in place, we're going to go back to the world as we know it. The world has changed. And it looks different for a lot of us. For some of us, we're working longer hours. For some of us, we've also heard that we've lost our jobs. There are a lot of different realities that we are facing at this point in time. So my first point today is, as you're thinking about repositioning, accept your new reality, whatever that looks like for you, because it has changed a lot of us. And it will continue to change in the coming weeks and months. The second thing, on the first one, in terms of accepting your reality, realize that the world of work as we know it is going to look different going forward. Different skills will be required to get through. And we need to really think about, managing our stress levels, because depending on your reality, you have different stress levels. As you think about that, assess yourself. There's so many different tools we use to assess ourselves, but this is much more than tools. It's really spending some quality time to think about what are your strengths and what are your values, so that as you look to the future, whether in employment or unemployment, whatever your reality looks like, or starting a new business, you're really clear in your mind that you're working based on your values, because our values are going to be tested as we move forward. List what your strengths are and what your values are. I like the fact that Ibukun's slides at presentation, which I hadn't seen until today, really speaks to upscaling yourself. I am calling it reskilling and retooling. Once you assess yourself, you know what is in your toolkit. It's time to really think about reskilling differently, because the types of jobs of the future are not going to be the same as the jobs of the past. So as you think about your career, you also want to be thinking, what are some of the skills that I need to have in my toolkit going forward? And when I talk to people about careers, I talk about transferable skills. You need to have skills that transcend organizations. Okay. Things like project management, some digital skills to help you. Going to the fact that we've all been working from home for the last few months, at least apart from our frontline heroes, we really need to think about what those skills are that would really help you even launch a business from your home going forward. So really think about, how do you retool yourself? And then my very last point is, how do you take action? You need to take action in terms of refreshing your brand and really thinking about, who you are. So again, your skills, your values, retooling and rebranding yourself. And that would mean looking at your career differently. It would also mean thinking about your LinkedIn profile, all of those things that present a brand. If you're someone who blogs, you want to think about how you present yourself in the new world. Ibuku talked about being flexible. I would say be flexible, be resilient, and be adaptable in the new world as you take action. So those are the first few things I'll say. And when we get into the questions, I'll break it down a lot more. Thank you.
Thank you, Edith. Without some of our speakers have never even met themselves before, and yet they're so on point and they're so aligned. That tells us that some of what we're picking up, I think, are going to be amazing tips that we can take away. I'd love for us to invite as many of our friends as possible. We always say this, please share this. We're online, we're live. Let's encourage a couple of people, because already the nuggets that even I'm getting from here, it's just amazing. And I'm going to give a moment to our final speaker, who brings a completely different lens to all this. So we've looked at, what are employers looking for? And I love the fact that, we talked about they're looking for value. What should we as employees should be thinking about? I love the fact that Edith said, assess your value, so there's a win-win there. And so I can't wait to hear the angle that Nandia then brings in, especially on a very critical aspect of this. So we say, Nandia, what are your top tips for navigating this new normal with a clear and a sharp mind?
Well, thank you so much for having me. Just listening to everything that has been said, like what Ibukun said and what Edith said, is like definitely everything is tying in line to all that we're talking about. And even though I come from a different perspective in terms of our mind and in terms of how we view things, I'm also use the relay as Ibukun started. Usually when coaches tell people about starting relays, the first thing they tell them is envision yourself accepting that reward, envision yourself being that first place. So now it's time to like envision or use your mind to channel what your goals are. Edith also talked about how we set those goals in the beginning of the years and now how things are different. While you're starting the race, you don't see what's going to happen. You don't see if someone is going to bump into you. You don't see if you're going to trip. But all you have to envision is the finish line. You have to envision what is going to happen at the end of the day. So in doing that, some of the tools that I have, one of the first things I have is being self-aware of what that means. In this whole process, we have all experienced what we call a trauma. Trauma is defined as as deeply distressing or disturbing experience. Being in this pandemic and staying at home and dealing with this new normal is a trauma that everyone is experiencing. And for some of us, being self-aware is checking in with yourself. What does this mean to you? Acknowledging that we have been through this and acknowledging how you are feeling. For so many people, you've had to be strong for other people, either being strong for your kids, being strong for your family. But as things are changing now, you have to really sit back and reevaluate, how am I feeling? What is going on? Am I feeling stressed? Am I feeling anxiety towards what's going to happen in the future? It's just knowing what that is for yourself, really sitting back and, being self-aware. Edith mentioned, assessing yourself. That's also part of being self-aware, just assessing what it is that is going on with you, assessing what it is that you are feeling in this moment, because once you're able to self-assess, then you're able to know and create a way of how to move forward. And for some people, it might be slowly engaging back into some of those activities. Protecting our minds is something very key that we need to do, regardless of, all that is going on, the news that we're hearing, the things that are coming in left, right, and center. And it's so, the way our mind works is that even if you didn't turn on the news, if you were passing by and you heard just a little information, it resonates in your mind, in your subconscious, and your mind is constantly playing on that. And then we're being anxious about that information that we heard. So protecting your space, protecting your mind from the things that you're listening to, either on the radio, either even with somebody else in your family that is talking about something, or somebody else's anxiety that, you pick up the phone and you have a conversation with your friends or with family, and their anxiety and what you hear from them gets into your mind. So it's protecting your mind from certain information, the information overload, the information on the news, the information on the TV, and the information from other people. And the most important thing, you also have to prioritize our well-being. Our well-being is knowing how is slowing down. In this whole process, we have been forced to slow down. Slowing down and making sure that your health is number one. Meditation, self-care, what that looks for you is if turning off the TV for the rest of the day to just relax on you, using aromatherapy to kind of help you relax, to help you breathe, to help you project and meditate on learning how to breathe properly. When we are stressed and when we are going through different traumas and different situations, we forget how to breathe properly. So a lot of times they tell us to stop and breathe in and then breathe out. In prioritizing our well-being, you have to realize, what does this mean for you? For other people, if you enjoy crafting, bringing out the yarn, bringing out the paint, bringing out the different things that you're used to doing, creative activities, whatever it is that will help you just take care of yourself in this period is very key at this point. And developing a support system, that is very important, because so many times, depending on all the things that we go through, we need people to be able to pump us back up. We need people to be able to get us on board and let us know that, look, this is what you need to do. Joining networks like the Women's Network as well, this can serve as a support system, because you are learning how to move forward. You're learning what to do and what the next steps will be for yourself. So knowing the right people that are around you. And for some people, the support system might not necessarily be your family. A support system might be somebody else, but identifying what that is for you, because a family member can even be more of a trigger to you than a support. So identifying what that support system looks like for you. Thank you. Pastor Nika, you're muted.
Thank you so much. So much packed into minutes. So we're going to get the show on the road. I have a couple more questions, and thank you to everyone who's in attendance and who is viewing online. Please feel free to use the question and answer tool to ask these questions. And I know that it's going to be, it's just going to be a great session. So thank you. I think you guys have captured so beautifully some key things we need to be thinking about. So the word is amazing, isn't it? Who would have ever imagined that a word called COVID-19 would be one of the most spoken words in our lives today? I remember seeing a video of a little child praying that God would take away COVID-19. The girl can barely speak, but she was pronouncing COVID-19. So we've said a lot of things, and we've said, the dial has moved a lot. But there's some things that I liked between what Ibukun you said and what Edith you said, which is, managing expectations. So managers have expectations at this point. Employers, they're thinking about different things. We as, those who might be, career professionals also are thinking of different things. How would you say, and this is, the in between these two is the mental health issue in there. As we try and stay ahead of COVID-19 issues, what do you think the tussle is right now? When I said the tussle, employers don't know what the new workplace needs to look like. We employees don't even know, am I comfortable going out to work again? For those who might be working from home, do you think employers are actually ready for seeing this as long-term? And I think Ibukun, being, your exposure to Africa and to, being in Togo and working out of those areas, do you think it's easier for people who are working in the corporate world outside of maybe Africa, in terms of we're ready to go the long way? Or is there pressure for some of us who, for those who are even members of EPR who work in Africa? Do you think there's a difference between the approaches that most employers are taking and due to the economic factor?
Thanks, Pastor Nike. In the past, I would have said there were differences, and it would be backed by statistics. And we would talk about how Africa, we are so technologically in some way behind and all these things. But for the past 3 months, we've had a deep reflection. I mean, businesses across Africa now are waking up to the reality that digitization and working from home would stop becoming options. They would become a way of life. So let me just talk practical, right? You would look at employee policies and you would see flex work, flex style, flex plan, and it's just there as a nice to have. Nobody uses it because even though your boss doesn't tell you, you have to be at work. You know that productivity count when you wear that suit and tie and you go to work. For the past 4 months, I tell you, that has changed significantly. Productivity as we know it in terms of working hours, in terms of where I work from and how I do my work has changed. And what does that place on us as employers and employees? It places a lot of demand. From an employer perspective, how agile are we in terms of this, digitization? Are we using virtual meetings? Are we still hard bent on, okay, everybody must sit down in a meeting setting to discuss business priorities? The second thing for us as employees as well is how are we, and I know that Edith talked a lot about it, how are we also taking action to ensure that we can facilitate this transition that we are facing? So at the end of the day, I tell you, the single global language right now is digitization across board, and it has nothing to do with Africa. Togo compared to, if I could just speak to practical as well, Togo, we would say, oh, Togo is, okay, maybe third world country. But I tell you now, colleagues have been sitting at home since February, and we are working, right? So that's the new reality right now, that we all have to latch on digitization. If we've been talking about it theoretically, and then we thought that, okay, the future of work is still in 10 years' time, I think that future started around mid-2019, basically.
Wow, that is, I love some of the things you talked about. Whenever I hear digitization, my ears just prick a little bit. And there was a question I was going to ask when I think one of you was speaking, and I forgot about it. So now I just remembered. And so let me, based on what Ibuku said, and because I remembered it, a part of me feels that, we're at the point where the average employee needs to think like an employer. And I think you touched on it. Ibuku said something, she said, before you had all these things, flexi working, work from home, blah, blah, blah. People didn't pay attention to it. You shouldn't even bother going to meet your manager asking for 2 days a week, But now everybody knows that's the new reality. However, when I think about, digitization, if we want to be effective, we need to set up our professional life such that we can deliver digitally. If all you did was rely on your employer's computer to get to work, and now they say, we're going to give all of you secure passwords, you may need to start thinking about how you set up your own home office to be able to do this. So what are your thoughts about how employees need to think like an employer in this time, to understand the challenges employers are going to face, and instead of saying, this isn't happening, to say, if I'm an employer, what am I looking for? And then we reposition ourselves. So we're all owning our work. We own it. If you need to spend money to upgrade your home system, your technology system, so you can function effectively, you need to start thinking like that. I know you've talked about all sorts about flexibility and too, but maybe you can help us, give us some practical things we can all do now to make sure that we are ready for whatever the employers have to also embark upon.
Thank you. There are a couple of things I think we need to reflect on. The first point is the home-based work is the future. So for a lot of employers, there's a lot of research that is out there. A lot of employers, apart from startups and the tech companies, we're still living in the traditional space of having to show up to the office. A lot of managers and leaders in organization also believed in, if you're present, you're productive. If you're present, you're working. And all of that has changed. And what does that really mean for us as employees? I think there are 4 things I would say. The first is you need to start thinking about the work-life balance. You have to figure out what that means to you in the new world. And I can speak practically. I think for the last few months, I work long hours normally because I travel a lot, but now I'm working long hours just being home. When I started off, I had a desk that was meant to be kind of my space to work. I'd never used it. So the first few weeks I worked on my dining table. And then I realized that I wasn't able to set a balance. I would work and eat in the same spot. So I decided there was a need to set up my workspace really well. That meant having to get the right instrument and tools to help me. So the first thing I'll say is the world has changed. Set up yourself to work remotely. So that's the first piece. The second thing is set up yourself to balance your life and work. Even as we continue to be locked down, I think you need to set parameters that make you realize that I am starting work and I'm ending work, whatever that means to you. What I do when I'm leaving my bedroom and going downstairs, I take my bag, even though I'm not going out of my house. There are little things I put in place to tell me this is the beginning of my workday and the end of my work. So just some little things around that. When we think about the future, I talked initially about reskilling and retooling. How do you want to be marketable in this world of work? The great thing COVID-19 presented, it's presented challenges, but it's also presented opportunities. Almost all universities that I know of have a lot of free resources, free courses online. I would say, leverage a lot of those resources. We're not going to have this unique opportunity. A lot of people have been generous with their content online. Reskill yourself so that as you're coming into the workplace, you're also thinking as an employer, what are those skills that are going to be required either by my employer or by myself if I want to set up a business of my own? Because what you've also found is people are still working, a lot of entrepreneurs are working from home and making money. A lot of people have had to diversify what they do, to think about producing content on video. I look at the well-being industry in terms of gyms. A lot of people will not return to going to gyms because people have found that they can work out from home, they can attend classes from home and really benefit from that. So there's a whole paradigm shift when it comes to work, but when it also comes to the well-being, how you keep yourself healthy and active. My last point, think about non-traditional roles when you're also thinking about your career. So the piece around, you can be an accountant that really just does private services to people from your home going forward. You can do their taxes, in whatever country you live in. Think about how you can do your work remotely from anywhere, because this is one of the things this has taught us. Lastly, be resilient. I was talking to the head of healthcare in my organization this week, and I was talking about, organizations need to think about psychological support to provide to people returning to work, because the workplace is going to look different. And so also think about how you getting help. I like what my other sister said about, really thinking, creating a support system. As you think about shifting on your career, who are your board of directors? I've talked about this in a previous call that we had. Now more than ever before, you need those resources as you think of yourself as an employer, as a good, when you think about a brand, think of yourself as a brand, and have your board of directors who are also supporting you as you're thinking of what changes do I need to make? How do I need to make this work life really work? Even as a mother with children, how do I do all of these different things in the new world? So I think I've said a lot of things, but I'll stop here.
I really like a lot of what you've said. I'm going to ask Nandia some questions, but you've again touched on something. I'm going to ask all three of you about that. And it's really about one thing those who know me were very much particular about in EPR is you Inc. We've talked about this for a long time. We've talked about it, we've had discussions that our approach here is you Inc. No matter what you're doing, you're a brand. You might be working as an employee here, but I'm a firm believer that everyone ultimately works for themselves. When I had that paradigm shift a couple of years ago, when I go into any establishment, when I was working or when I was running my own business, I said to myself, I ultimately work for myself. So I don't wait for my employers to sort of tell you certain things. You have to be a bit proactive. And so knowing that this is our new world, and Edith talked a lot about work-life balance. Work-life balance is not that easy, Nanda. It's a lot. It's, I like what you said, Edith. I wish I could do it. I am not doing it. Pick up my bag in the morning and go downstairs. I started it initially till I realized I was still wearing this gown, for the last 2 days. I just changed the gown, just this comfy gown. And everybody's like, are you going to get on the video call? Well, not really. So a friend of mine, we talked about how this video call is not as easy for some of us when it comes to the issue of diversity. Not everybody can shake their scalp and then be ready. Some of us have to make sure that, that hair is in place. So all of those things are things that are funny. But Nandia, on a more serious note, how do we, I love the fact you're a child, adult, family therapist. Given everything that we've all talked about, what are some of the things that you're starting to see as a therapist? What are some of the pressures that you're starting to see? What are the opportunities that exist today for families whereby in the past, parents barely saw their children? We got out early because of traffic, as we all know. For those of EPR members who we chat with sometimes, some of our members are in Lagos, in Nigeria, they leave home as early as 5:15, 5 a.m. to get to work. And I have, ladies who have said they deliberately leave the office at 9:30 because what's the point of leaving any earlier since the time you leave at 9:30 is the same time you get home? That has changed. Now that is in there, and most people are seeing their children more, they're seeing their spouses more while working at home. And you would think it's all perfect, but not really. It brings a different level of pressure because of the change in routine. So just your experience, talk to us about enhancing the good, managing the challenges as well when it comes to the mental health of everyone during this change.
Thank you. So for a lot of families, when we started this social distancing, we started social learning as well, online learning for the kids. And that has posed a lot of challenges, both for the parents and both for the children who have just for the first time are learning how to do classroom online or trying to even navigate technology online for the parents. So that has posed a lot of challenges, a lot of anxiety, a lot of frustrations for parents because they have to deal with their own job and trying to help these kids navigate online learning, trying to help these kids navigate what homework looks like. So for a lot of families, yes, this has caused a lot of disruption because you are starting to see everyone for who they really are. There were a lot of times where, even for parents who have teenagers or just growing children, a lot of times that looks different from what you know the kid to be when they were younger, and that looks different now as they're a teenager. But because of so many activities people are constantly involved in, you don't stop to really know who your kids are. You don't stop to really know that their interests have changed. But now that is all changing because now we're all like in the same space with your parents, with your kids, with your spouse. So this is now creating a new opportunity to know who each other are, like reflect on, okay, you used to like banana when you were younger. Now you're talking about liking something else. So it's changing, and it's having to create that structure both for everybody in the family, creating the structure, creating a schedule that says, okay, from this time to this time, this is what we're going to do. And I like what Edith said in creating what that looks like for you. And for her, it will be carrying that bag downstairs. For other people, it could mean wearing a nice top and some sweatpants under, but even in doing that, it helps you put on a mindset that is more clear, and you're more ready for the day, and you're more ready for whatever that looks like. And I like what you said, because for some people too, if the dining room space has now become classroom, at the end of the day, we need to put away laptops, we need to put away books, we need to clear the space out. So you are transitioning from what that looked like as school classroom setting to now moving into dining room dinner setting. So you have to be able to change and adapt and be flexible with your different structures, with your different settings in the home. Many people don't have the space to even move upstairs or downstairs. It might be one level floor, but at the same time, is what does that look like for a productivity space? And what does that look like afterwards? It's also, I encourage families, even during this time, to have a time when work is done. You have time for creative time, either taking a walk outside with your children, or having that creative time where they all learn how to bake, or where somebody learns how to paint, or where they incorporate mom and dad into what their games are, or what their interests are. And mom and dad shares what their old school music is like, or what their movies were like. So it's learning each other's habits now, learning each other's interests right now, because we're all in each other's space, and is learning to really adapt to what that looks like now. I even tell a lot of parents is that productivity might look different every day. Today your kid might be very excited, come down, do everything, follow the rules and be okay, but tomorrow it might be a struggle. And just being able to adapt to what productivity looks like even in this space, and knowing that it's okay, because we're all in a new normal. This is a pandemic we're all going through, and it's okay not to be okay some days. But just knowing what that looks like and knowing how to help your child in that space, instead of, if they're becoming difficult in that period of time, do you need quiet time before you start productivity? Or do you need creative time before you start something else? So just knowing what that is and helping the kids feel open to communicate what that is like for them, or what that feeling is like for them to be able to express. So communication is key in constantly in the whole thing, and just shifting and adapting, and knowing that Mondays, not every Mondays will look the same, but just creating that schedule to be able to follow through with it. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness, thank you. It's like Nandia is in my house. Literally, it's like, as she was speaking, I was just like, she was just coming in, and I'm sure there are a lot of us that are listening that we know she just spot on, because that work-life balance, no matter what, as much as I used to work from home 3 days a week before this time. So the work from home part of it for me wasn't really a problem, although I still need that office experience. But for me to work from home for so long and to have my children at home, because when we went past 6 weeks, my daughter said, it's been 7 weeks. We've even gone past what the summer holiday time would have been. So even if we were used to it, it's now very, very different, and so many battles and challenges. So I love some of those key points. I'm going to make sure I listen in, there's some things you said, I must definitely listen in again to that. I love it. I can't believe where the time has gone. I know we have a couple of questions, and I still have one big one I want to throw at everyone here as well. But thank you. Our panelists are doing a fantastic job with what they're bringing. So we had one of our participants says, and I love this question, what are 5 transferable skills that you suggest today's worker have? So I'll have Ibukun, maybe not give us all the 5. Let's throw it out. It will be easier. So I'm open to everyone. 5 transferable skills. And I think it's based on something Edith talked about that we can use. So let me start off with Edith, and then Ibukun can give us the lens of even what employers are looking for in terms of level of transferable skill.
Okay, sorry, I forgot I was on mute. From the world where I sit, I think that a couple of things. There are a lot of them. Project management, I think, continues to be a great transferable skill to have, and being able to look at the beginning, the milestones, and because as the world of work changes, that piece of being able to organize and identify milestones and keep to them and drive things to completion will be very critical. Another piece that, I don't even know if you call it a transferable skill, is language. Again, from the lens that I see the world, being able to speak different languages. I've seen quite a lot of people at this time learning languages, because you're going to find that, in looking at the world has become, when you think about how the virus started in a little village in China, and the fact that it's reached almost every corner of the earth, you need to think about how you're going to be able to engage, even as you set up businesses and your work, and think about your career from that perspective of learning a different language. Another point, when I think about a skill that is going to become critical, if you don't know how to code, sisters, spend some time, put an hour in to learn to code. The future is digital. So think about those digital skills that you want to develop, regardless of the industry that you're in. Think about how you can learn to code, because it will help for the future. Another skill that I think about, the ability to work across, collaboration, work across with different people. There was another question there on that talked about how do you make yourself visible? And please, I'd like to come to that eventually, but really collaborating, working with different people will be a very critical skill to have. So I'll stop here and Ibukun can add others.
Thank you, Edith. Excellent. Ibuku, you're on mute. Okay, good. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Edith has pretty much said it all. If we could compress everything and just stretch it to 5, but I would also add a few things here. One of those transferable skills that is very important, and employers are really looking out for this, is a competence we call dealing with ambiguity. And what does dealing with ambiguity mean? I mean, in this era of change is all around. And when you look at the progression of change, in most cases, there is no A, B, C to Z. I mean, we all know this reality right now that by Monday, the business will still have to come together, have a business continuity meeting to say, how are we going to figure out this week? So for us as employees, sitting down and wondering, how could we make impact? I think one of the key things we need to reflect upon is, how do I deal with this ambiguity and what could be my contribution to it? We would have a lot of success stories to share after COVID, but it begins with that shift in mindset. Rather than being reactive and waiting for my manager to call me and say, we have a customer issue, I want you to resolve it on Saturday. And then you ask, okay, so what do I do? We need to be as collaborative as possible to deal with that systemic problem, complex problem, and come up with solutions. And if I could use a practical example around dealing with ambiguity in times of change, I look at, a multi-level, multi-strategic company like Primark, for instance. The statistics lately showing that Primark, first of all, never even had an online presence. And all of a sudden, the Primark is anymore. Not one single sale in the month of March. I don't know about April or May. And the question is, where are the employees in this organization? What's happening in the IT department? What was going on in the minds of these people? So we've got to be able to train our minds, and beginning with the stories we are already dealing with right now, to deal with ambiguity. I picked up the phone about 5 minutes before joining this call because we had a serious emergency issue. It's an ambiguous issue because, to be honest, I don't have the answers. But it's up to us as employees to have that owner's mindset, which I like that Edith talked about, and yourself. Be the employer in this situation and ask yourself, what would I do? What should I do? Come up with proposals and share. The interviews of the future after COVID would be based on dealing with ambiguity. How have you handled ABC complex situation? And the interviewer would be looking out for you to answer those questions, not just I have sales certification or GPHR certification or Scrum certification. It would be about what were the things you did differently during this time. And if I could just add to that quickly, hinging on dealing with ambiguity, it's also the creativity skill. Creativity, a breath of fresh air. That is what is in the air right now. COVID has come and there's a lot of cloud in the air. And we want this cloud to move away. And with this shift, a lot of traditional skill, way we've been working and everything would go with it. Jobs will go with it as well. They've been going with it. So then what is new? And in interviews of the future, in 3 months down the line, that would be the question. If you look at the ACCA website, for instance, and in one of the sessions I co-facilitated about 3 years ago, I found it very, very interesting that one of the competencies that ACCA is now training their graduates to imbibe is creativity. And for me, it was an aha moment, an accounting field, creativity, it's like night and day, but that's the reality out there. So it is important for us to start. I mean, yes, it's great to have this knowledge and certification, but life experience when it comes to the X factor, creativity, what could we do differently? How can we address this customer issue or this shipment that has been there locked by the government? What could we do differently? That is also the charge about transferable skill, and it applies in any kind of sector, whether you work for the government, you work for yourself, or you work for an organization. You've just got to be creative, and that will give you an edge in the future, right now.
Awesome. Beautiful. I'm loving this conversation. It's amazing. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for some of the questions. I noticed some things are going through the chat, so forgive me, there's a lot in the chat. So please use the Q&A so I'm able to capture it. I think today is a very valuable time. We normally give about 75 minutes for this once a month. But it's every month, it's like we don't even have enough time. But I respect the fact that, you know, there's so much value here. We'll just plod along a little bit and make sure that we can capture as much as possible, because I think it's important. And I'm just going to jump from the last thing Ibukun said. And as she was speaking, I was smiling, so many thoughts in my head, because the interesting thing, Edith works with the World Bank, and you know, she had a phenomenal testimony last year, which she shared with us. We have our annual EPR, this Women's Network Conference, and she got a fantastic, you know, role and fantastic job, and what she does and the perspective she's giving in our global perspectives, which she shares not just with, you know, companies, and also with governments and with nations. And to hear Ibukun just breaking all of what she's saying down, and there's about 1 or 2 questions that has come that I want to direct to Nanda. One thing that I'm excited, and I just need to say this, is that in this network, what we feel makes EPR different is that we're a network of professional Christian women who we believe strongly that part of our assignment is to bring solution. So when Ibukun talked about creativity and ambiguity, that is the #1 skill that the Holy Spirit provides for us. First of all, because he knows all things, he brings truth. So no matter how ambiguous a situation, the Holy Spirit can direct us. And that's what we bring as professional women. We are the ones that bring this solution to our workplace. Ibuku said, look, I was on a call. She told us 5 minutes before, we're not too sure how to do it. But we know that there's somebody who we know has truth. And that's the value. And that's what sets us apart. And then she talked about creativity. Everything that we see, we were designed as creative people. And I think one of the things that we're saying now as a network is that the Spirit of God, there's a spirit in women of God, and the inspiration is by the Holy Spirit, and it makes us problem solvers. So we're excited because where do we see our careers? We're at the top right now, because all the things that are needed in careers are the things we're bringing. She said something, she said, you know, it's not about your certification anymore. The playing field is being leveled. There's a place for certification, but people are looking for solution. People are looking for someone who can come and say, I think this is what we should be doing, because God is revealing the future to you when you pray and you say, what am I bringing to the table this time around? So I think that is just phenomenal and really great. And as we quickly start to talk about things, I want to see if I can compile a couple of questions before I hit the final question, which I think is what I want to leave everyone with today. I know, Nanda, you talked about, you know, you spoke already about this, but there was a bit of an angle I wanted you to add to it. And if I see a question that's been answered before, I may not be able to take it because of time, but this recording we've made available also to everyone after the call. Someone said, you know, how do you attain a well-balanced life considering the high demand of output from employers during this period of working from home? So I think that's important. So you've talked about the balance with, you know, we need with our kids and, you know, our families to make sure we can do what we do working from home. But I want to talk about this from mental health now. People are under pressure. We all appreciate the need to deliver. If I can, I want to be a bit personal. Although I was ready for this, I had a conversation yesterday where, you know, I work, and at the beginning, towards the beginning of the year, there was a new role, there was this, there was that, there was, you know, all of stuff going on. You know, although they were cutting, you know, they had put a package together for me that was good, I was happy. COVID-19 struck, and they've been struggling to get that package through, struggling to get it through. So I had a call yesterday, and they said, I'm really sorry, but it's just not going to be approved. They said, come back maybe third quarter. Now, everything else on the package, they've approved it. It's a new role, it's a senior role, but they refuse to approve the pay package that goes with that senior role. They say you have to stay on the current package. I was really not, the Lord had told me, you know, part of what he tells me is, anytime you're working for any employer, see yourself as being in school. Nobody is paying you. They're paying you to learn. So he always, a long time ago, I removed pay to a certain extent from what I do, because every man ultimately gets paid what they are worth. So I believe that that's very important. So although I gave I gave the disappointed speech and the rest of it, then I asked for something. And in my role, normally, so the way I positioned it is said, okay, I'm going to get that approved for you. But because I was helped, mentally, I could have really been down, but I knew it was going to happen. So I said that to say the work and the demand is still high. But how do we manage that mental part? Or like somebody said, now you need to make your work visible. People don't know what you're doing. They think you're just at home. You're working so long. You don't even know if it's been appreciated or if they see the value. The relationships you have with managers, mentors, sponsors are no longer there. How do you keep that mental health while still making sure that you are your own advocate? Because now we're all remote. How do you advocate for yourself to make sure that your needs are being taken care of and you're not afraid that if I tell them that I can't deliver this at 8 p.m. tonight, it might be a problem and I need a job right now? Can you just give us a few tips before we take the final question?
I also believe that a lot of employers right now are under pressure as well. So everyone is going through this anxiety of trying to deliver. People are really trying to meet their deliverables, even their goals, even at this point, whether the COVID has slowed them down or not, people are still trying to achieve that. But knowing what that means for you, at the end of the day, your job would, if your health or your mental health, if something happens to you, at the end of the day, that job is the least thing on your mind. So it's knowing when to step back and it's knowing when to communicate that with your employers, because even they understand what is going on. Even they understand the anxieties and the pressure, and productivity looks different for everybody at this point. I mean, for some people, even moving through traffic has either made things a lot better to sit down and even be more productive, because going through traffic may have caused a lot of stress even before you get to work. But now it's a lot different. That has been eliminated. Like, you don't have to drive maybe an hour away or remotely. For a lot of people, they are driving an hour or more to get to their job. So that has been eliminated. So sitting down and having actionable steps or actionable things that you're going to work on for the day, and knowing that whether you meet them or not, is being able to know how to communicate that effectively to your employers because of what is going on, but protecting your space and protecting your mental health, to know that this is pressuring me at this time. This is causing anxiety. Do I need to step back for a little bit? Do I need to take a day off? A day off might seem like a whole lot, because by the next day that you come, your productivity might be higher. But just knowing that and being, able to learn what your body is telling you at that time. A lot of times being on the screen for too long has caused headaches for so many people. We're so stressed out, we're looking at these screens for so long, but just knowing when to take that off. Like in our off days, like, having the time from 9 to 5, if you need to do extra, even if you have to go a little extra, knowing that you're going to take 1 hour away from your screen time to either close your eyes and meditate, to either close your eyes and breathe in, to be able to let go of that anxiety and stress and properly breathe. And thank God, as you said, for the Holy Spirit, and thank God for Christians. But a lot of people don't have that ability to call on God or to say, God, please help me. But in that moment is learning how to stop and learning how to breathe and learning how to assess that this is what my body needs at this point. I need to shut down technology. I need to shut down my phone maybe, or I just need to be in a quiet space, whether it's for 1 hour or for a whole day that we need to take off, and then come back to be able to meet that deliverables at the end of the day.
I love that. And as you were speaking about that 1 day off, that was very helpful for me, because I remember around April, I was under a bit of pressure with it. And one of the things I realized is that how many of us are getting on a plane to fly anywhere now? So all this vacation time, normally we keep our vacation time, right? Because I just said to myself, you keep it at, okay, 2 weeks, we're traveling with the kids, we're not doing this. We might as well take it once a month or even twice a month, depending on how much vacation time you have now. We can take that. And I see someone in the chat room talked about exercise. I love that. Extremely important. I think that has helped answer one of our attendees' comments about boundaries. Elizabeth raised up the issue about strategies for boundaries. I think Nandia talked about a lot of things, putting our time, being very deliberate. This is a new space. Buku said something, this is new for employers as well. So we are also helping them to say, I need to do this. They might be like, oh, sure, of course. If I was in the office, if we're in the office, how people get up. I know those that, 5 times will go for their cigarette breaks, all those things. People keep moving and the rest of it. And at times at home, We don't do that. So that's key. And let me just come to the final one, and I'll take everyone's thoughts on this. You guys have been amazing. Maybe and then we'll just take 1 or 2 announcements and we're done. But I'm bringing it back to what I really personally believe on a women's network that I think is a key opportunity that COVID-19, Edith said a bit, Ibuku said a bit, it clicked to me. Let's go back to Me Inc. I'm a brand. Edith said, you're a brand. We believe very strongly that you must say to what do you have? Because there are things we do today that if we wrap some processes around it, will become a business. My understanding is that companies, this is not the time for them to be hiring new people, but they have work that needs to be done. So for some companies, they just need someone for 6 weeks to sort something out for them. So you can actually work on your job and yet getting projects around the globe. I think if we don't do anything else, we want to leave everyone with what our amazing panelists are saying in different ways, because you need to mentally think like that and reorganize yourself. Like Edith said, you need to look at all the skills and the transferable ones and how you can quickly upskill. And Ibuku said something, how do you match that to employers? Because the employers now, I know that, ultimately you don't really have any competitor, but you don't have a competitor, but the role may have a competitor. In other words, a robot is trying to compete with some of our jobs, right? A robot cannot think like me. They cannot be creative. No matter what you do, there's still the advantage God gives me that I'll be ahead of it. But there's some administrative work I do that a robot is ready to take it away because they can do it. So I must see my value and what is best. So if I, just like you guys started with each of your opening remarks, we can just give us one thing that you can say to everyone here when they think of Me Inc. We're all employers now. We're employing ourselves and deciding who we contract ourselves to as employees or as business owners. And we're saying my knowledge and my skill, I can share it with 5 different companies sitting at home remotely now. I can provide it to a company in the US. I might be sitting down here in Nigeria and I'm consulting for a company in Qatar. I'm sitting around here and the Netherlands are saying we need this skill set and I've gotten it here. It's a global world and the opportunities are amazing. So ladies, as we close, can you give us a word for the Me Inc. that is working sometimes as an employee, that is now also thinking like an employer, and that is trying to maintain a work-life balance? So I'll just let you guys round us up with a few comments. Let me start with Ibuku, and then we'll go through Edith and then just 1 minute or 2 minutes, sorry, just your rounded thoughts.
Yes, that's fine. Thank you. A lot has been said. And if there's one key thing we could take away and I could leave to this audience, it would be about putting our hands up. I think it begins with that practical action. And I say this with an understanding that there's a lot of disruption. Jobs are being lost. Jobs are shaky right now. The employers are also as human as we may not think. And a lot of them are thinking of how do we sustain all these things. One thing that I believe would differentiate us, whether we are working or looking to start work, or we are entrepreneurs, or whatever it is that we operate on in whichever sphere, carve out some visibility for yourself by putting your hands up. A lot of times we neglect volunteering opportunities. We neglect opportunities to collaborate with people that maybe we've not worked it or we don't understand. We neglect the value of carving out relationships within our industry or within the ambitious goals of our career. So I think for me this year, one thing that I strongly believe and I would leave is raise your hands up for opportunities in whatever way or whatever format they show themselves. Sometimes they could be as little as just maybe putting something in a flow chart to aid or elevate a project, and it will make a difference. It could be a 2-pager, something no one has thought about, and you have no idea how global or how important that kind of innovation could be. So let's do that a lot. For those of us trusting God for opportunities, maybe moving out of what we're doing right now, or we want to do something else, get on LinkedIn, be visible. LinkedIn has over 500 million users. And we are merely scratching the surface right now. So raise your hands up, have conversations with your industry leaders, connect with people who are within that angle you're looking to go, and just be available. They will call you. You'll be surprised. They will call you because they would need you. Or what do you think about this? We need a volunteer here. Please say yes first. Even if you can't figure out the solution, I urge you and I challenge you, as I have been challenging myself. It's not easy though, but say yes first and let's go figure out the answer. So that would be my charge to us today.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you, Edith.
Just in addition to that, because I was going to say something very similar in the sense of look at non-traditional roles. Do not think of work in terms of, going to an office or working for an organization anymore. Even as you work for one, really think about what are some of the other things I can be doing. I believe that COVID-19, and I've said this to a couple of my friends, it was a blessing. Of course, it's sad that, lots of people have lost their lives. So I'm not discounting that. But from a very spiritual standpoint, it was a time to hit reset. So I would say, look at doing something totally different and being bold about taking risk is one of the things I would say as you come out of this, either in the work that you do, look for opportunities to take risk. In addition to volunteering, there are some things, do the work that nobody likes to do. We all have that within our teams or our organizations. One of the things I've been saying to people that I mentor, look at 4 or 5 different people who are doing something you would like to do in future. Go and interview them so that you understand how they got there and use that to chart, map or walk through a map of something you would like to do. Of course, everybody's journey is different, but reach out to people, get an understanding of how they've gotten to where they have gotten to, and add that to the assessment, your self-assessment, and use that to chart your course of what next. In addition to that, someone asked about how do you keep visibility in remote working? One thing I suggest to people, write a weekly summary of what you've done and send it to your manager. Do that religiously of these are the things that I've worked on this week. And also schedule regular chat to people that are your mentors and sponsors. You could do that every 3 weeks, given that you're virtual. Try to do that. And my last point, as you're praying, listen and journal. God is speaking at this time. And just one quick example, when you were speaking about the Holy Spirit, in the last few weeks, because things are changing so fast in my organization, my team and I have been asked to come up with a new process. And I hit a mental block. And last week I kept praying to God, and honestly, it felt like the Holy Spirit downloaded everything. I woke up at 3 a.m. one morning and I wrote every single thing that we were going to do. It was so weird because a lot of it, it was just God. I hadn't thought about any of those things. At 3 a.m., it felt like somebody woke me up. And I always have a notebook beside my bed, and I wrote down everything I was going to go into the presentation, and it all hit the right notes. So as you are praying at this time, be writing and listening because God is speaking. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And the last comment from Nandia.
So for me, I just want to say that, we should focus on what we can, focus on what you can handle, not what you cannot control. What you have control over in your space. We can't control what's happening with COVID-19, and we can't control the fact that we're at home. But what you can control is what you do with this time. For some of us, losing a job might be even God pushing us and steering us to start that business. And for others, it might mean that slowing down to focus on that other business that we wanted to do or what God is trying to tell us to do. A lot of times I know that, our minds are a powerful tool. So what we choose to focus on, So we want to focus on something positive in this space. Focus on where you see yourself at the end of it. Focus on where we want to be positioned at the end of it. Visualizing what we want to achieve at the end of it, or visualizing who we want to be at the end of this helps us. Self-affirmation also helps us, saying these words to ourselves over and over again. Whether you believe it or not, your subconscious works in a way that the words that you hear are planted in your subconscious, and over time it will click or activate, and it's almost like it activates this superhero mode where you are automatically become that superwoman if you never believed that you were superwoman. And if you stood in the mirror every day and said to yourself, I am superwoman, whether you believe it or not, one day it will click and activate because you visualize what your uniform will look like. You visualize what your appearance will look like. You visualize where you want to see yourself at the end of this. So practicing that positive thinking and positive mindset and focusing on what we can control in this space will help us to get to that next level.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you so much. This was amazing. And just as a piggyback on what you said, Nanda, that's why this EPR Women's Network, we're a global organization. We're powered by the Esther's Preparation Room. This is one of the global programs. And in Esther's Preparation Room, there's something we do under our EPR, Praise Global Program. We have what we call Commando Week. And we believe very strongly that we have to be empowered. So every Monday, 5 a.m. British Standard Time, 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time, we literally speak words, like you said. We believe in the power of words. So we speak into the week, we speak into our career, we speak into what we're going to do, because we believe the week is our marketplace. We're going out, we are women in the marketplace, business women, career women, stay-at-home moms, whatever it is that we're doing, we take charge. We don't let the week just happen on just anything happen the week. We take control of the week. We order the week. We know what we want to see. Like Buku was saying, when we talk about the race, you look at the very end, that today is Monday. By Sunday, this is what I would have achieved this week. And when we do it each week and we say the right words and we keep our minds in the right place, we ultimately will have victory. Thank you so much, ladies. I know someone said thank you. People on the chat group have been saying thank you. They've said amazing things. Someone said, do we have a personal mentoring team? Yes. This is EPR's global network team. Then we have our global mentoring team. In fact, they've been doing a lot of work in the background, because a lot of the women here, we believe, will be part of our global faculty of mentors, of sponsors. Each of the ladies here are very established in their fields, to God be the glory, senior level management women in EPR, as we support and we showcase ourselves. That's one thing we believe about this place. We need to enrich ourselves. We're a network. There are loads of women listening today who will be in our mentoring, because there's so much we can deliver. So please watch this space for more of that. And I just want to thank you again, Ibukun, Edith, Nander, for a wonderful session. Thank you for everyone who asked questions. I'll hand you over to the lovely host for today, who is Moji, and she just takes us through. I think they have a couple of surprises for somebody here, and just a few things that they would like us to know. Please, if you can just stop for a minute, just help us do our regular survey format. We'll be happy to see that. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
I'll hand over to Dolapo. Sorry about that.
All right. Thank you also very much. So right now, what we're going to go through our announcements. So just give me a minute. All right, so I will hand over to Dolapo for her to give our announcement. Over to you, Dolapo.
Thank you so much, Moji. Thank you so much, Nander, Ibukun, Edith, and Adinike, for sharing your knowledge, both personal and professional experiences. This has truly been an insightful seminar, and it's just been awesome. So a couple of announcements. We have the EPR Business Directory, as you can see on your screen, EPR Business Directory. So as we heard on this webinar, collaboration is essential for our growth. There's a proverb I often hear which says, if you want to go fast, go alone. However, if you want to go far, go together. That is why the EPR Business Directory has been created to help share and showcase the businesses that you have. Your information is safe with us. It will not be sold. This is strictly internal, and basically it's for us to leverage on each other's strengths, skills, and businesses within this network. In addition, if you're in an industry where innovation and potential growth are emerging, kindly register in the business directory listed. Moving forward, this webinar has been recorded for your viewing pleasure. In addition, a resource guide will be sent to all the participants of this webinar. We have a poll. Can we pull up the poll? We're going to have a quick poll going on right now. If you are on Zoom, the poll should be at the bottom of your screen. We want to hear from you. Kindly provide us with feedback from today's session. How did we do? What did you enjoy about this session? Please let us know. We're here to serve you. The poll is live right now. We'll give it about a minute for it to be completed. While you're filling out the poll, please do not leave. We're going to have a giveaway, so please don't leave. And also, while everyone is doing the poll, I want us to think about an action step. Write down one thing you have learned from this webinar that you'll be implementing in your life, in your business, in your career. You can put this in the chat box also. As Adenike stated earlier, our webinars are monthly. They are held every third Saturday of the month by the grace of God. Next month's webinar will be held on Saturday, June 20th. Details on that will be sent to you shortly. And please don't forget to invite someone. Stay tuned for all EPR events coming this fall. Coming this summer or fall will be our EPR's network tea parties. We will send details on that soon. All right, I think we can end the poll now and move on to the giveaway. Yes. If today is your first time joining this webinar, kindly indicate in the chat box. Please indicate in the chat box if today is your first time joining our webinar and who invited you also. Oh, wow, I see we have a lot of new. Wow. Okay, I'm trying to figure out. Oh, wow, we have a lot of first time. Wow, this is awesome. I'm trying to keep up. It's a lot. Oh, wow. My screen is just scrolling now, scrolling down. Awesome, great to have you here. The first person that I see here is Pri. I'm trying to make up her name. I can't make out her name. Hold on one second. Princess Irabo. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to all the beautiful ladies. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Being that Princess Irabo is the first person that signified that this is her first time attending, we're giving away a free resume session with Moji Ogungbe, who is a recruiter and an expert in the human resources field. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us. We hope you had a great and insightful session, and we'll see you next time. And here we will be signing off now. To everyone who has joined us, thank you so much for sharing your Saturday with us. At this point, we'll end the webinar. Wishing you a great weekend and see you next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.